To have some specific quality. You have to have this magnetism that attracts these other alpha males, these killers, these creme de la creme of California criminal society. You have to attract them. If you have that magnetism, you have this leadership quality, you have the intellect, you have the heart. If you're willing to kill, somebody will sponsor. Progress in the organization by doing work. You do work, and work is basically stabbing people. You kill people in the organization, and that's how you escalate. That's how you advance. That's our status mobility system. In society, you have college, you have your job, you have civil servants. And that's your status mobility system. I mean, you're educated, you make more money, you move up in your position in society. In our society, the more people we kill, we advance. The more things we do for the Mexican Mafia, we advance. We gain our social status. We become recognized in the organization. You first have to capture the attention of a specific Mexican Mafia member. So Sureño, you'll be asked to do favors. I mean, this is an organization with audacity, with individuals in it willing to kill, hoping to shock the public, because this shock and awe value of their crimes generates great publicity for them. I mean, you have to understand that these are domestic terrorists, and they prey on this constant fear that they evoke by the name M, Mexican Mafia. We heard that when we were young. It was like, wow, these guys are heavies, and they are heavies. That may be accurate for the immediate period. I mean, following his arrest, you remove him from that specific neighborhood. But you have to understand that that's when it starts. That's when the individual is going to become a Sureño or a Norteño. He's going to be placed into his community. He's going to be placed into a community within prison that fosters antisocial behavior. I mean, that thrives on criminal behavior. And the organization that controls this individual, be it Nuestra Familia, BGF, AB, or M, is going to utilize this individual to infiltrate his neighborhood all over again. This individual, say he's from Bell Gardens, say he's from Montebello. A Mexican Mafia member will contact him and say, who are the connections in your neighborhood? Can you contact them for me? And tell them that you're my representative here and that you want to establish a conduit between me and them. And they'll be utilized that way. And we'll re-infiltrate that community and have it even a stronger hold than when you took the youngster out. So all you're doing is you're immersing that kid into a world where there's no regression. I mean, he can't go back. Once he's involved with the Mexican Mafia, it's in for a penny, in for a pound. You can't get in and say, I don't want to play no more, unless you drop out like I did. After 20 years of my life, I dropped out. We use a method of communication which I like to call carnival talk. It sounds innocuous to you and I, but it's nefarious. Its underlying intent is nefarious. Say that I had a visitor and I told the visitor, hey, how's Joe doing? Joe's doing fine. Yeah? Why don't you ask Berta to go over there and see him and make sure she talks to him for me. Give him my very best. Okay, to you it sounds like Berta's going to go over there and give him regards, but to me, I've just authorized a hit against this individual. And in any court of law, it can't be proven. Because it sounds so generic. It just sounds generic. I mean, we can talk about money, we can talk about crimes, we can talk about drug collections, extortions, taking cars, pink slips, whatever we want. And we do this all day long. We understand that we're being recorded. And we alter our conversation a bit to sound innocuous. And we have the institutional gang investigators just scratching their heads sometimes. And what does this mean? And what does this mean? Any Mexican Mafia member can authorize a hit on anybody, as long as it's not a relative of another Mexican Mafia member or a worker of a Mexican Mafia member. But now it's become like a phenomenon out of control. There are lists that are 4 or 5 pages long, and they're authorized hard candy, hard check, personal check, you know. And this is ridiculous to the hardcore members of the Mexican Mafia, because we believe that an assault, once authorized, should be murder. I mean, the individual should be killed, because you don't go in to create an enemy. You don't go to assault somebody because it destroys them. I mean, their whole resume as a up-and-coming Sureño or Camarada is marred once they're assaulted. So you want to go to whack somebody, I mean, you want to make sure he's killed. So they use multiple assailants. They use backup shooters. They use bunk cars. I mean, they're strategically done. I mean, some of them are just done where they stick the gun out the window and boom, they do it. but some of them, they're well put together. They're well put together. A conservative estimate, there's 150,000 to 175,000 individuals that know the name Mexican Mafia. They fear it, and they will do things for it. Hardcore individuals, say maybe 50,000. Soldados, which are soldiers. But the group is small. The Mexican Mafia is small in itself. I mean, it has vast influence. And that's in California. We're not considering Arizona. We're not considering the Hawaii faction. We're not considering the federal faction. This is an organization that's truly organized crime. In our neighborhoods, we're like, how would we equate it? Like senators. We represent those areas. We go to the neighborhood and we treat it like demigods. This is a big homie. What do you want? Girls, drugs, money, cars. You got it. We make it a profitable proposition. All these murders that are committed for nothing over the past years, we have hundreds of bodies stacked up, literally hundreds of victims that have been killed by the Mexican Mafia. We parlay those past victims, even though they didn't pay then, they pay now. They pay now. People pay us for those murders now because we translate this terrorism into finances. Well, you have a facilitator. This individual is usually a visitor who handles all of your communication to the crew chief. The crew chief is the individual who is your right-hand man. He's a representative on the streets. And from there you have crew leaders, individuals who run specific areas for you, parts of your territory. As a member, and then below them there are workers. Those are the guys that are out there actually collecting and selling drugs and doing the extortions for you and enforcing. As a member, you have an organizational entitlement. As soon as you're made, you inherit a piece of turf. It's usually the area which you hail from. Say, I'm Boxer from Artesia. As Boxer from Artesia, I can conduct any illicit activity in Artesia that I wish, without any opposition from the organization. I don't have any kickbacks to give anybody. I don't owe anybody any money. This is all cream for me. I can also conduct business in the outlying areas as long as it doesn't interfere with another member's business objectives. If it does, we strike an agreement. I'll give you X amount of money, you let me function here, or you give me X amount of money and you can function here. Everybody pays them up. Everybody pays. To do business, we all pay. It's smart business. But I can function anywhere in the state of California, anywhere I wish, with the full authority of the Mexican Mafia and the full authority of my crew, me being the figurehead of that crew, the ultimate power in that crew, as long as it does not interfere with other members' business. And if it does, I can easily politic on that member, get him killed, and take over his business. It's that simple. That's all life is in the Mexican Mafia. That's why it's so treacherous. I used to run quite a large crew, probably one of the most successful crews in Southern California. And I did it all through visits of mail. We'd alter their names, we'd alter my name when they wrote back, and we conducted business out of Pelican Bay for about 10 years. And I was clearing maybe 60 a year from the cell at Pelican Bay. And that's not bad for being in prison, 1,000 miles away from your base of power. That's not bad at all.
How much is the crew making?
Astronomical amounts. I mean, this is, I'm at the low end of the spectrum being paid. I understand that I'm the figurehead. They're doing all the work. They own legitimate businesses. We had three legitimate businesses, and they ran them. But underneath that, they were doing illicit drug trade, extortion. So if they're driving Mercedes-Benzes, Lexuses, Escalades, they're pulling in 7 figures easy. I mean, the whole of the crew is 7 figures easy. They made far greater amounts of money than me, but I was satisfied with what I got. I was happy. Although with blue-collar money, I put my kids to college, I supported my family, and I did well, I think. I know the Mexican Mafia has established ties with La Cosa Nostra and the federal prison system. Although, personally, I never had dealings with them. We had dealings with others, Asians, in Monterey Park. And we know that they had triads. We had ties with other organized groups in specific areas, methamphetamine cooks. We had ties with the Arellano Felix clan in Mexico. Bet Marquez had ties. Even some of my crew had ties with some of their lower rung dealers. There are ties. I mean, anything that makes money is what the Mexican Mafia is all about. Anything that increases its political and financial power. And if that means dealing with the African community, that's no problem. All money is green. That's what the Mexican Mafia thinks. It's that money is okay. It's okay to do business with anybody as long as it's profitable. When you have Mexican Mafia members associating with senators, politicians, well-meaning individuals who believe in what they're doing is right, have no understanding of the nefarious intent of the Mexican Mafia, it will stoop to an all-time low to get somebody killed. And that's what these politicians, these clergymen, that some of the administrators have to understand. The Mexican Mafia will kill, and its whole objective is to control. So when you see these peace objectives, these stopping of the drive-bys, this is just fluff. This is fluff. This is the Mexican Mafia trying to achieve something here, and it's doing it because it looks good. And it pushes law enforcement off a little bit because law enforcement is going to get bad public relations if they go in there and crack up a peace rally. So they're held back, they're held at bay a bit until they understand the true intent of what the Mexican Mafia is doing. It's profiting through the stopping of drive-bys is what they're doing, infiltrating neighborhoods, creating representatives in each geographic location in Southern California. This is where the big money pays. And this is where we're becoming true organized crime because we can control those gangs. We've displayed it. That we can, what law enforcement, administrations, all the resources the federal government can't do, we can do. We can control gangs. And as quickly as we could say, don't do drive-by, we can start shooting at cops. That's what the Mexican Mafia, the power of the Mexican Mafia is vast. Some of the Eastern philosophies, some of the warrior philosophies, Sun Tzu's Art of War, Essays on the 10 Arts of War, Carlos Castaneda, you have just a variety of different literature that the Mexican Mafia latches onto. I mean, it's considered the Prince by Machiavelli, political tactics. I mean, we study all these things. I mean, for anybody to think that some of these Mexican Mafia members are illiterate, and there are some that are illiterate, don't misconstrue that to think that every Mexican Mafia member is a walking genius or anything, because some of them are just as sharp as rocks. But some of the guys sit back. I mean, we're sitting here doing life, and we have nothing better to do than educate ourselves. So we take college courses. I mean, we read all this classical literature, this Eastern philosophy, and it's absorbed. I mean, we utilize this. We put this to work. In terms of the training, I mean, we all go through basic education as to where to hit people. I mean, where vital organs are, the manner in which we hit them, called shifting gears or over-the-shoulder stabbing motions, which are best to sink the knife the deepest. But there's two areas basically concentrated on. That's the chest area, the mid-torso, and the white lower quadrant of the abdominal area under the ribs, which is liver shot. I mean, this is massive hemorrhage either way, and that's where we try to hit people when we stab them. In terms of weapon manufacturing and education and assaults, I mean, this is almost Disneyland stuff because we learn this as Sureños. We come up and we know how to make bombs, zip guns, explosives, crossbows, knives, everything. I mean, we're well schooled and well heeled. You put me in any room, anywhere, I'll come out with a weapon, no matter what. I'll come out with something usable. Yeah, I think that would be considered, you're shooting daggers at somebody, which is a phrase for, staring at them harshly. I think that would be a challenge. That's an immediate challenge. I mean, the individual's going to stop and stare back. I mean, you're issuing the response. You're looking at me, I look at you, and somebody's going to wait for the shoe to drop. That's definitely you're going to create a situation there with somebody. For the seasoned veteran, the savvy individual, he'd approach it respectfully, professionally, in control, always protecting himself, but respectfully. I mean, he wouldn't step on their necks, he wouldn't kick them, beat them, speak to them in a derogatory manner. But he would control the situation. And then once he had it in control, he'd speak to them like individuals. I mean, I've spoken with gang cops in the streets before, OSS, individuals like that crash. And once we were done proning out, once they were sure that they had the situation secured, that nobody had any weapons, then they put their guns away and they talked to us. Hey, how you doing? Where you been? How long were you down? They try to gain knowledge from you. They try to gain intelligence. But they did it in a respectful manner that didn't come off as like they were trying to bleed you for information. One of the policies of the Mexican Mafia has always been never to assault law enforcement. It was counterproductive. It was always counterproductive. But there's been a swing in mentality. I mean, we have younger members coming up with more violent, more willing to hurt officers. So, I mean, it has to be considered that the possibility and the true existence of a threat to CDC officials exists and law enforcement because That's reality. I mean, the game is changing. Mexican Mafia is losing some of its intimidation factor with CDC, so they're going to have to resort to taking off handcuffs numerous times to do assaults in custody. We had the Buenostro hit in the attorney room, which is a pretty big hit. Me and Benny Peters slipped our cuffs, extracted knives from our shoes, and stabbed this guy in front of about 50 cops. And in Los Angeles County Jail, all they're armed with is a flashlight. They don't have weapons like PR-24s or OC spray. They don't have these things in the county jail. This is back in '92, before the county jail was fully immersed in the depth of what the Mexican Mafia was capable of. And unfortunately, I had to stand around and they watched it while it occurred because they couldn't stop it. Another time, I stabbed an individual Mexican Mafia member by the name of Henry Carlos in a court tank at CCB. And the only thing that stopped that was that an officer mentioned having a gun. And that's what stopped that hit. I mean, I used to practice in Pelican Bay making cuff keys. You can do it with a bobby pin. It's not that difficult to open cuffs. I mean, any type of cuff that's designed, all we have is time to sit back and figure out how to open it up. Any type of device that you create, other than black boxes. Black boxes are very efficient. Everybody's familiar with the black box? They are very efficient. And that's why everybody hates them in the CDC. They're uncomfortable and they can't be taken off. But if it's regular cuffs, people can't take off their cuffs. People do have knives. I had a knife on me for 5 years straight, in shoe, Pelican Bay. I had a key on me for 5 years straight. A real key. A real knife. This is the reality in prison. This is what the CDC officers and custodial officers have to understand. Individuals are armed, seriously armed, and they're willing to commit violence.